Yo, what's good, everybody? It's your boy Levin and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? And right now, we want to get in this topic of, subconscious echo feedback, right? A lot of the times when you sit with yourself, sit by yourself, whatever you're experiencing, the world and shit like that, a lot of things are going to come to the surface and shit like that, right? Where these are going to be the echoes of the stored energy that is going on in that organ and shit like that, right? Where you're going to experience this wave of energy, this vibe that's actually being exfoliated from your organs. But the thing is, the more we feed that vibe via reactions and going into that spectrum of information and looking at life through that spectrum of information and building up that spectrum of information, especially if that spectrum of information or feelings has to do with traumas, lack of validations, negativity and shit like that, sitting back and actually rationalizing with those thoughts and feelings that are being exfoliated onto the surface is actually going to create a more heavier mind. It's going to cause a lack of ability to actually think and feel freely, because the mind is already engaged, the mind is already busy, engaged with an experience. It's not free to go into another experience. So unless you're able to freely sit back and not participate in these feelings and these thoughts that are being exfoliated, that are coming up to the surface, rather than participating in that shit, we gotta learn to let that shit go and shit, by not even jumping into that spectrum in the first place. Because the moment you jump into that feeling, the moment you jump into that thought, you're giving it energy. It doesn't matter if it's right or wrong, you're still rationalizing it. You're still adding weight, still adding mass, still adding heaviness. Where it's like physics, where like let's say it's like a periodic shape, right? It's like we're sitting back and adding more points to that mental body. So that mental body could be like, oh, I'm insecure. But you can add another point to that, be like, okay, well, maybe I'm not. And you can add another point, well, I'm not too sure. It's like, you just keep building this like structure of bullshit that's not actually helping you with your life. So it's like, the best thing you could do is not even sit back and rationalize with your negative past. Don't even sit back and rationalize with your trauma. That shit will just take you deeper into it. You'll think you're resolving it. You'll think you're dealing with it, but you really just gotta like exfoliate it and just let it go and shit. And I got some information that I've written down so we can get into a meaningful, useful, goddammit, discussion. So basically, like I explained earlier, right? Echo feedback from your mind, from your subconscious, from your unconscious and shit like that. This is when you receive energetic echoes from different faculties of the mind based upon the charge that is stored in that organ, right? Where a lot of us, for example, could have had a negative past and shit like that. And a lot of these experiences can still be stored within your nervous system, for example, and shit like that. So for example, the nervous system can carry experiences, aka energies, perceptions that emit an energy wave internally, right? Because it's internal, external that we're creating the world and shit like that, right? That plays out like an energetic sensory experience that we're picking up in our conscious reality, with our conscious mind and shit like that, from our subconscious auto-suggested reality and shit like that, right? Where it's like basically a sensory experience that the observer is experiencing, where you're either exfoliating that experience, actually letting it go and allowing more room for something else, right? Because you want to be free while you engage in these new experiences, not heavy underneath these preconceived notions, trying to live life through some like past point of reference. No, you make a point of reference when you go into the experience. This way it's pure. It's not based upon like some old light, some old awareness, some old consciousness and shit like that. We don't need to be bringing that old consciousness shit into the fucking present and shit, especially if you had like a fucking negative past and shit like that. That's definitely nothing that you need to be participating in and shit, right? Where you're either basically exfoliating it or you're reaffirming that old energy. Like I said at the beginning of the video, it's like a mental body, but you might be adding more points to it on a subconscious level, from conscious to subconscious, rather than you actually just slowly letting those points deteriorate, where it's like a table, right? You know how a table has like nails and fucking screws and shit? It's like a structure. You gotta let those screws go by not even paying attention to it. Don't even participate in it. Don't even jump into it. Let that shit exfoliate. So it's like a table, right? Slowly and surely, it's gonna undo itself. Where those screws are gonna drop, that table is gonna deteriorate. Where you can look at it even as like a biodegradable, right? A lot of these thoughts and feelings can be like let go of. It can just go away and shit, but you gotta be able to not resonate with it. And if you keep looking at it, it's gonna keep looking at you because it's a spirit that you're participating with, knowingly or unknowingly and shit like that, right? Yeah. So basically, rationalizing with that low vibrational spectrum that becomes a part of your perspective, the more time and energy we add to old thoughts and feelings, right, the more we actually feed that. It's like that allegory, you know, where you see a lot of times on Instagram. Yeah, the wolf that you feed is the one that's going to win. So are you going to do the things that are actually going to allow you to become and express that new character that you want to be? Or are you still going to participate with and feed that old program, that old past, which is really just, a lot of it is just witchcraft being practiced on people and shit like that on a mass scale. Because Earth is a very low vibrational spectrum. And the thing is, the people running the world, they're not necessarily putting systems and structures in place to assist people in elevating their animalistic natures. No, they're trying to keep people there divided and stuck in the bias. Here's the thing, a bias could just be like, oh, I'm not confident. That's a bias. Like, that's a bias, because it's like, how you know you're not confident? Like, jump, because it's like you're holding on to a thought. Oh, I'm not confident. That's a bias. That's like, oh, I'm insecure. That's a bias. Like, what? That's nothing to do with truth. The thing is, this is how you know if it's a lie or if it's a bias, right? If it keeps you in like half truth, or it keeps you like stuck, or if it's limiting you and shit like that, that's how you know it's a lie. That's how you know it's a thought and a feeling from like a devil, a demon, low vibrational spectrum of energy that we don't even need to be necessarily even jumping into. But just based upon us participating in these things for so long, we might not even be able to no longer tell the difference between like an actually godly character and an actually just like a retarded low vibrational character. But here's the thing though, it's like everyone knows this subconsciously and consciously, but it's like subconsciously we might not even want to outgrow that. We might just want to adhere to those patterns because it's like so normal and shit like that, right? But yeah, so it's like as observers over time, we create synergy with a lot of these energies and, you know, different traits and shit like that, right? The less time and energy we put into these 3D based dense life, the more our observer, our awareness can be free. The observer, hold on. Yeah, what the fuck was I even writing? What the fuck? Yeah, basically it's like free. Basically, the observer observes these things, but you could be free over this low vibrational demonic nature based realm that relies on the external world. What a lot of the times we may use the external world just to saturate our internal demonic low animalistic natures and shit like that, like gluttony, eating a lot for your emotions. That's a low animalistic nature and shit like that. Wrath, that's like a low animalistic nature, but there's a time and place for that. There's nothing even wrong with eating a lot, but you just gotta be able to get out of it and not fucking like get stuck in it, because it's really just vain. Like the reason why a lot of times we jump into these things just be based upon like vain shit that we don't even need to be participating in and shit, for real. So yeah, it's like it's not the external for the internals, right? A lot of the times, like, people use the external world to saturate their internals and shit like that. It's really the internal, then build the external, right? Because if you're using the external world for some type of internal shit, let's say you need a Lamborghini because you need some internal form of validation, or you need this expensive product, and there's nothing wrong with buying expensive shit, right? But it's just gotta be for some purpose type of shit. When that's when it's like effective. That's when it's like, you know, you made like a wise decision, not necessarily a decision based upon saturating some nature that we haven't dealt with within and shit like that, because of a lack of ability, you know, to go within and shit like that and actually deal with that uncomfortability, deal with that insecurity. And, you know, that's what we all here to do, deal with those insecurities, deal with those things and shit, so we can get out of those things, so we can actually start to make this plane, this earthly realm, goddammit, more lighter rather than heavier. But here's the thing, it's a very low vibrational space. So on this journey, you can only expect yourself low-key to be alone. And it's like, you'll find other people that are doing this shit, but it's like, you can't even do it for the people that are spiritual too. You gotta do it just for yourself, because like it's a path, it's a route where you're creating your own route by willing to let go of what was known to you and jumping into some shit that's actually fucking unknown to you. Because it's like the result a lot of times that people we be looking for can happen in so many different ways. Sometimes it just take a degree of openness, and it's like being open is good, but while you accumulate these experiences in life, you're gonna come across like knowledge that is from your own observation or from your own experiences that's gonna confirm to you what is actually needed for you to get to that point, or like, you know, what's actually going on in the world. It's like to the point that it's fucked up, where people actually would rather listen to the government, let the government program them, rather than them sit back and actually look at their own experiences, at their own observations. They'd rather be instructed and controlled and manipulated by the government and told what to do because they need an external form of structure and shit like that. So it's like, it's kind of like pretty fucking crazy low key. So it's like, if you can't manage yourself, someone else will be managing you. But at the same time, the person that's managing you is like low key like scamming you. So it's like, I hate even saying it's a game. It's just about awareness and shit like that. Because if someone has awareness, you'll be able to detect, spot that, and it won't be like something that's hidden from you. It'll be some shit that's like privy to you, where it's like, that's why the people that run the world play the position of the fucking occultist behind closed doors, setting up signs and sigils, getting people lost in these fucking biases and shit like that, to the point that someone might fuck up in their life so badly they might really believe they need Jesus Christ. No, you need to analyze why the fuck you made that mistake in the first place, so you can get out of the nature that led to that. Like a nature is like gluttony, for example, right? You can go eat a lot. You might even gain so much weight you might fucking die or get your fucking legs amputated. But if you analyze the nature, like gluttony, anger, wrath, or whatever, you'll be able to see why you even got in that situation in the first place. And we should be able to forecast these things ahead of time. But a lot of the times we can be like so deeply invested into these things and just being so emotional and so fucking chaotic that we might just be like, you know what? Yeah, this is just who I am. And the other thing is, since the world around us is mostly negative, we might end up being negative too. We'll be like, you know, yeah, everyone's doing crack, bro. Yeah, man, everyone's doing cocaine. Yeah, bro, the world's corrupt. It's a very backstabbing place. This is what I gotta do and shit. But this is what this world makes you believe, because it's the system. It's the way it's designed and shit. But you don't gotta, like, adhere to none of this shit, right? Where the system is basically trying to get people to adhere to these low animalistic natures. Because I would explain it, let's say, from the perspective of astrology, right? Where you're presented with animals as characteristics, right? Let's say, for example, Scorpio. This would be a good example, right? Because like, you could be the Scorpio, or you could be the eagle, or you could be the phoenix, and each nature is like a further out light, a further out awareness. So the more you're able to exfoliate this animalistic nature, the more you're able to embody this sense of a higher nature, to the point that like some zodiac signs may develop like what's it called, a negative reputation, but it's purely based upon it being played out for some low animalistic shit rather than some angelic shit. Because if you're doing your natures for some angelic shit, people will sit back and be like, yeah, this person is doing this quality for the right reasons. But if you're not doing that quality for the right reasons, people are gonna sit back and be like, yeah, this person is like low octave or like low quality and shit like that. So it's like, it's really, really important to not participate in a lot of these things that's being exfoliated. And here's the thing, right? If you're into astrology and shit like that, when these different planets move into different spaces, different zodiac signs and stuff, with different qualities of energies, if you understand your natal chart as well, which I would recommend everybody to get into and shit like that, right? It's like you're gonna be able to see, okay, whenever there's a planet at a certain house, it's gonna bring certain attention to that area of your life, that certain circumstance and shit like that, right? And if that circumstance is not fulfilled, or like you're unfulfilled, or it's not going well and shit like that, you might need to work on that and shit like that, right? So it's like, it gets really deep. I don't want to go into like multiple different topics, because these things gotta be like subdivided into other topics and spoken about and shit like that, right? So last point being, as these different forms of elemental wirings, right? Because Tunnel Vision said this in one of his videos. I can't remember in which one of it, right? But he was talking about how these different forms of subconscious, unconscious wirings can come up in different elemental forms and shit like that. Where it can come up in a feeling that might need to be exfoliated, where it can come up in some passion, some negative desire that need to be exfoliated, or it can come in some form of like air logic communication, like some words about yourself that may not necessarily help you move forward with your purpose, right? So it's different elemental wiring systems that need to be exfoliated and shit like that. So as different forms of elemental wirings that are embedded subconsciously come up, learn to let go of it by not giving it your awareness and time, where it's something that's passing by on its way out. Like when you're vomiting, it's just something that's passing by on its way out. You're not gonna sit there and fucking rationalize with your fucking vomit and be like, yeah, vomit, I want you back in my body. That's fucking stupid. Your body they got that shit out of it for a fucking reason. Like those things are exiting your body for a reason, because it's just the nature of life. Things go in, things go out. We breathe in, we breathe out. But when we're doing these things negatively, it can cause us to actually accumulate a bigger negative cycle to the point that we fucking crash, and that crash might look like a death. That crash might look like a fucking health problem. That crash might look like being fucking financially bankrupt. And here's the thing. I'm not even saying it's bad to crash. Sometimes, like, you can, if you're into the whole witchcraft, spellcraft type of shit, you can make a fucking magnificent crash. And it can look like the worst thing ever since to other people, but to you, it might be like the best thing ever. But here's the thing. That wouldn't even need to happen in the first place if people were able to sit back, detach from these things that are coming up, and allow these things to actually be exfoliated to the point that, like, they don't have to participate in these old programs. So yeah, sit back, understand it's gonna be echoes coming out of these organs, coming out of these minds, coming out of your heart. You may have negative feelings here. You know, you could have, like, a lot of things are stored within this body, because it's not just the nervous system. It's not the only organ. Your heart is an organ. Your gut is an organ. This brain is an organ. These eyes are an organ. The muscular system is an organ. All these things is an organ. But it's like different energies being stored there. You might have different blockages in different areas depending on, you know, your life experiences and, you know, shit like that. Shit people go through, or whatever, you know, you have synergy with it. You manifest it as traits subconsciously, unconsciously, knowingly or unknowingly, right? But yeah, with that being said, peace out, everybody. Monday to Friday. Y'all gonna see me tomorrow. So I'm gonna see y'all on the next video, which is tomorrow. Peace.